Sorry for the rough start. Thanks for attending this webinar on the Australian version of MyMathLab Global. I hope that I can get across on this how this program can be a powerful asset to your teaching in about 20 to 30 minutes. It's a short time, I know, but I know you're very busy, so I can keep it short and sweet. So my name is Michael Porteous. I'm the Product Manager for Learning Technologies at Pearson Australia. I'm leaving everyone on mute at the moment. Unfortunately, I left myself on mute to start with, but everyone else on mute because we've got a large audience and we don't want too many overlapping voices going on. However, I recognise you've probably got questions that you want to ask along the way, and some of you have already found the button for this, but please type any questions along the way into there, and at the end I'll answer any questions that time permits, and anything that I don't get to I will follow up with you in a follow-up communication. So feel free to keep asking questions in there. I'll check them periodically, but hopefully most of them will be answered through the presentation. So what is MyMathLab? MyMathLab is a fully online learning system. It's for tutorial and assessment. So it's not just about testing, it's also about learning and making sure that they really understand the concepts. It's got proven results over many, many years, and it provides more I get it moment for students. It really is the power of practice that they can get all sorts of practice and help to make sure that they're really understanding mathematics. So this is a system that's used by tens of thousands of students every year all over the world, and it's continually evolving and improving year on year to make sure instructors and students are getting a better experience. This is a system we adapted for our Australian market to help with improving math skills for Australian and New Zealand students from very basic arithmetic all the way up to first year calculus. So it covers a really wide range that can fit into wherever you need it, whether your students need more advanced help or more basic help or everything together through their entire university career. This is also a book-independent product. A lot of our MyLabs and mastering products are attached to a particular textbook. This has no book. This is just covering the concepts of mathematics. So there is no book that is directly tied to. It's really designed to make sure we're enhancing that first-year experience, not just target one particular subject, although it can be used in a particular subject if you like as well. So students get a really wide range of benefits from using MyMathLab. First of all, because it's fully online, they can access it anywhere that they're online. As long as they have a computer or machine that can run the program, which is everything bar tablets and iPads at the moment, but every other computer will be able to run this. So they can do it at home, at university, anywhere they like. It provides a personalised and guided study plan. This is a major part of the system. It gives them a personalised learning experience. Every student gets something different because it diagnoses the learner's weaknesses and gives them a guided study plan that helps them work to mastery through everything they need help with and nothing that they don't. It also provides help at the point of learning. So rather than getting feedback a week later, 2 weeks later, or a couple of days at the next tutorial, they get help as they're doing the questions. Right when they're on task, they're getting help from the systems, making sure they're understanding. It's not just about assessing their knowledge, it's about making sure that they're really understanding and proving the mastery of the subject. It increases grades and success. So through this personalised learning path, students gain confidence at maths, which leads to higher grades and overall university success. If a student does not have good math skills when they come in, I think we all know that they really struggle and can fall behind in other subjects as well just because the maths is dragging them down. So while we put the learner at the heart of all that we do at Pearson, we also know that you, the instructor, are key to making sure the products produce the intended outcomes that we both want. So instructors love using MyMathLab because it's a system that delivers what you need to administer and evaluate your maths teaching. It gives you a flexible online delivery. There's a huge amount of options within MyMathLab Global that you can use to configure to fit with your teaching needs, whether it's purely online, a blended delivery, face-to-face learning with some online. There's different ways that you can use it. So we've got lots of options that you can fit it into your unique course delivery. It's really easy diagnostic testing. This is one of the hardest things to do when a student comes into university, knowing just what they're weak at and what they're strong at. All you've got is their high school records sometimes. So this makes sure that it's very easy. You can use our system's diagnostic testings or you can create your own to target exactly what you need. It makes it very simple to find out what they're strong at, what they're weak at. Saves you time on assessments. All this is done for you. We've got massive amounts of questions here that students can use. You don't need to do a huge amount of work unless you want to go in and customize it. So you can save a massive amount of time on making sure that you're helping students and assessing them. There's also really easy performance visibility. Through the Gradebook, you'll be able to see the sort of analytics you need to quickly find struggling students and your overall class performance. It's proven to increase grades as well. So Pearson's been collecting an ever-increasing set of case studies and white papers on the efficacy of MyMathLab system from around the world, and it's shown that it really does help students make real progress in their learning. It also produces happier students. Students who overcome maths anxiety know they can engage with maths in their other subjects and are much happier with their studies. Students that fall behind in their maths struggle, and they generally have a miserable experience, especially in that first year where retention is so important. So let's take a closer look at the system itself. Now you've got the broad overview. We'll look first at what the student gets out of this, the student experience as they go through. So first of all, a student's going to need to do some sort of diagnostic test. They're going to have to either use some of the, we call them chapters, or you can call them modules, where preset tests that they can do on each particular subject, and then they can go through and do just a test, which just tests their knowledge. It doesn't give them any help. It makes sure we know what they know and what they don't know. You can also create your own diagnostic test if you would want to really pinpoint where you know they need the most help as well. So this is just an example of a question they get in one of the diagnostic tests. So you'll notice here that it's not just about multiple choice questions. The beauty of the MyMathLab system is that it makes sure that they use things in a proper mathematical environment. So you can see we've got a full maths palette here, and they can build obviously a ridiculous equation I've created here, but just to give you an idea of the complexity of how they can build it. And the system itself then diagnoses that. So on the simplest level, you might find a few multiple choice or very simple answering in integers, but as you get further along and more complex mathematics, then they'll be forced to use a lot more complex maths. So this really does test their knowledge. It's not just giving them multiple choice, getting them to guess between them. It's really making them think and write mathematically. And in this, there's no help or hints. This is all just about testing their knowledge to start with. And at the end of each of these tests, it'll tell them what they got right or wrong. They can review that, or they can go to their results and start the study plan. So what this does is every question is tied to a learning objective that we've assigned to it. And we've made sure that those learning objectives are as wide and broad as possible to make sure we're covering every angle, as granular as possible, I should say. And what this does is once they've completed this, any of the learning objectives that they obviously know and they've got right will be taken out of the study plan. They don't need to learn that. We've already assessed that they're good for that. But anything they're getting wrong will be inserted into the study plan to make sure that they get the practice and help they need and prove their mastery at it later on. So this gives them that personalised path once they do that diagnostic test. And this is what the study plan looks like. So students will come in here and you'll see the little pin icon means that they need to do work on this. So this is obviously just the first module, the very easy stuff here as an example. But students will come in here and they'll have two options. They get to practice first, where they get all the help and feedback, and this is a learning exercise where they can just practice again and again and again and again. They can fail as many times as they like, they can learn as much as they like. And once they feel confident enough at this, they can move on to the quiz meet, where they'll get a number of different questions, and if they get those right, then the system will mark it off and say they have mastered that concept. So it will move them through all the things that they're having trouble with and make sure that they master it. So you can be guaranteed that your students have got the help they need and that they have proved their mastery of that particular topic. Some other views here as well that the student can see. They can look at the study plan progress. So here is all of the different learning objectives within the first chapter or module. It continues down further, but I've cut that off, and shows them how many mastery points they've earned, how many objectives they've mastered, and how many are remaining in that particular area there. So you can see some of them are going to have more than others depending on what we're testing at the moment. And yes, we'll be able to give you a list of all those modules. I can follow that up in our follow-up communication. They can also view this by everything here. So this is just showing them breaking down. So in the first section, you can see whole numbers, reading and writing whole numbers, and then it breaks it down into the individual sort of granular detail of what they need to know, and shows them how well they've done and how long they've spent on it as well. So the students get a lot of visibility into their own performance. This is also visible to you. So this is what a student would see when they're doing practice in the study plan. This is the really powerful aspect that students love. We always get feedback about how they love this bit where they're getting the help and that they need, a bit like a tutor would help them as well. So here again you can see they've got the question, they've got where they're going to answer. When they put that answer in, they can then choose any of the mathematical symbols that they need, or it might just be a number depending on the question. But say they're stuck and they don't know how to approach this question. They're really stuck. They don't know what to do. They're getting it wrong. They've got two options here, one called Help Me Solve This and one called View an Example. Help Me Solve This will step them through the question, but it will make sure that they have to answer as they go forward. So it's breaking it down into the individual parts needed. So you obviously want to see students doing their working out and going through the process of mathematics. This forces them to do that. View an Example is a little bit different. It won't ask them any questions. It will just make sure that it shows them every step of the way and then puts them back into the question. As you can see, this is a four-part question. It's not just a simple one. It'll make sure that it is quite complex and moves them through a more complicated question and answer situation. This is just an example of the Help Me Solve This. So you can see it's breaking down these terms and moving them through. And at each step along the way, it will make them answer and give them help and feedback if they're getting it wrong. As you can see here, if they do get a question wrong, they'll actually get some feedback on their wrong answer. So rather than just saying wrong, it'll actually tell them why they've got it wrong. Sorry, so to mute myself to cough there. Students also see completely different questions. Each of these questions is algorithmically generated, so all the numbers in the question change from every time they use it. Every student gets a different question. So if you can see here, the similar exercise, you can see that this is reloaded and they get the same question, but the values are different. So every student gets a completely different question. And this will be useful to stop cheating, obviously, but making sure that they can consistently practice. They can do the same question again and again until they get it right. Because if the same value, then they'd obviously only be able to do it once. This is just the front page to show you what students will see when they first log in. It will give them a rundown of what is due coming up in the next week. It'll give them what upcoming assignments that you have set to them as well. Pardon me. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cough, so I'm just muting myself to make sure you don't hear that. They see announcements that you have set or Pearson has set. They also see their overall results and score and a bit of a timeline how that goes forward. There's also a new achievement system that will show students little badges they get as they complete things and do more work or excel as they go through the study plan. Students also can get complete visibility in their own performance through a results tab where they can go in and they can review all the tests that they've done. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what the student experience is about. But as an instructor, you have a whole bunch of other options to do as well. Let's have a look at this. So as an instructor, you obviously can set up your course how you want. You can change the general settings here, the availability, course access, and so forth. This is all set to a basic default to start with. But more importantly, you can change how the study plan works, and you can set your own assignments as well. So in the study plan manager, you have a whole bunch of different options here which can change the way that your students interact and how you interact with the system. So to begin with, you can change the mastery. So here you can see that when you assign tests, quizzes, sample tests, when they get a question right, it will update the study plan to say that they have mastered that particular question. So when they do the quiz me and they get that right, it will say, yes, you've mastered it. If they do an assigned test and they get it correct, it will master it. So if the students are working through the study plan on their own, they can master the topics, or if you set them assigned tests and so forth, it will also make sure that links back into the study plan. And you can change how strict or tight that is. So at the moment it's saying they've got to get everything right to be able to pass that. You can be a bit more lenient, set it to 70, 80% if you want to, but the default is 100%. You can also change how many questions they ask in that quiz me section. There's also an access section here. So you can set it so the students go straight into the study plan and start working, or you can make sure they have to do a diagnostic first. So you've got a few options of how they interact with the system there going forward. There's also the coverage and scoring section. So you may not want to use the entire breadth of what we've got available in MyMathLab. Some of those beginning ones may not be suitable for your students, or some of the advanced ones may not be either. So you can see here that you can dig into each of these modules down to a very granular level and turn them on or off, depending on what you want, and that will remove them from the study plan. It will remove them for what the student sees. So you can make sure that the students are only doing what they need to, so they don't go off on tangents perhaps and do things that might waste their time when you're trying to direct them to very exact sorts of learning outcomes. The other part of the system is the homework and test manager. So beyond the study plan, which is a sort of automated system, you can assign your own tests. So you might, as I said before, put your own prerequisite and diagnostic test, or you might have particular tests along the way where you're trying to assess their knowledge as well beyond the study plan. So you have the availability to create two types: a homework, which is like the practice section where they get all the help that they need and all the hints and so forth, or a test or a quiz, they're also called, where there's no help at all, you're just assessing their knowledge. And you can set due dates and so forth. And it's very easy to create an assignment. As you can see here, you simply choose the module or chapter, break it down by section, and you can preview the questions just by clicking the button and working through them as a student, or seeing all the answers if you want to. And then you can simply add them into your assignment, change the order, change the scoring. You've got a huge amount of variation there if you want to use that. You've also got a whole bunch of customization options here, and you can also show static, algorithmic, and so forth. So there are a huge amount of options. I won't go through them all, but you can really dig in and find everything that you need and configure an assignment how you like. And before it goes live, you can change a bunch of other settings here. So you can give partial credit because they're quite often multi-part questions. You want to make sure that they can get credit for getting some of it right. You can put a prerequisite if you want to set something up that's pre-made where they've got to do one test before the other. You can also turn on and off the learning aids, and you can update the study plan with it. Now, I'd say leave this on most of the time if it's a test, because you want to make sure that if they get it right there, they don't have to go back and get it right in the study plan again. So that's the basics of what you need to know as an instructor. You can change that study plan to fit how you want. You can set assessments. You can fit that into your teaching needs. But the other side of it is the Gradebook, where you get a lot of data and analytics. So this is really important. Everything that a student does in our system is tracked. We track every keystroke pretty much that they put in. And that visibility is available to you to make sure that you've got visibility into what your students are doing as an individual or as sort of a class as a whole. So you can see here there's a whole bunch of options. There's enrollment list, change weightings, managing incomplete works. You can export the data to your LMS Gradebook as well. And there's a few different views that you can look at the Gradebook. Obviously, we've only got one person into this one here, which is myself. But when you click on a particular student here, where there's a long list if there's a big class, you can then go and see every assignment they've done. You can click down onto those assignments and see every single answer they've done. So if a student ever has a problem, they can come to you and say, you can go directly to what they've answered and see what they've done. But these Gradebook views are very interesting as well. Actually, I'll just start here quickly. Also, there's this alert system here. So work that needs grading doesn't come up very often, but this inactivity alert is very, very useful. When students are not engaging the system, when they're really not doing any work or they're doing very poorly, this will start showing some numbers next to it, and it will show you students that haven't been logging in, haven't been doing their work. So sometimes they may have simply quit the course and they're gone, but they might also be flagging to you that this is a struggling student that you might need to intervene with a tutor or yourself or a student officer or something like that. So that's a really important tab to keep an eye on. This is the all assignments overview, where it'll go through every the assignments and it'll give you the overall score from that assignment, so you can sort of track how your assignment is doing. So very quickly you can see whether students are doing well at particular topics as a whole or doing very poorly. You can also break this down by student. So this will give you each of the students down here. So there's only one here, but there could be 50, 100, 500. It'll give you their overall score. It can give you what they've done in their homeworks, their quizzes, their tests. So you've got a lot of visibility into every single student there at a glance. You can also view things by the study plan by student. So you can see how many got correct, how many completed, mastered objectives, and this time spent is quite telling actually. There's usually a very high correlation between time spent and student success. So the students that really spend time doing it nearly always show that they have much greater grades. And the ones that are obviously low are the ones you want to keep an eye on and make sure they're getting the help they need. You can also view performance by chapter or module here. So if you're looking to see how your students are, say, doing in the real number system, you'll be able to see how well they do as a class total as well. And that might indicate that you could change your teaching or give extra tutorials or more help if you need to. So there's a way you can do a bit of just-in-time teaching using the Gradebook and the analytics here. Or even as a wrap-up at the end of semester to find out what worked, what didn't work. So, sorry, I went too far. So the benefits of the Gradebook carefully is you can find those struggling students very early to help remediate, which is a key way of improving retention. I think that's one of the major things that we're trying to improve here, retention of students that drop out due to maths, anxiety and problems. You can also track your class as a whole to see what concepts are more difficult or easy. And as I mentioned, super users can use this data to modify their teaching on the fly to make sure it's more effective. So that gives you a pretty broad, basic overview of MyMathLab Global. I want to talk a little bit about implementation ideas. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use this. I think that everybody uses it slightly differently depending on where they're trying to fit this into their course structure. So some of the ways that we do see them used successfully on a very basic level is just the self-study level, where you get the students to buy access, you encourage them to do tests for the study plans, and you might put up some targeted homework and assignments. This is very much a student-driven one, where you're getting them to go in as they need help. But we do know that students, if they're not forced to do these things, often don't use it very well. So that way can get results, but you're not going to hit the students that really need the help sometimes. Some people use it as a bit of a hurdle requirement. So instead of making sure they're testing and assessing everything, they just say, listen, as long as you've achieved 80% mastery of each module by a certain date, then they're allowed to go through. So this is a way that you don't need to put too much effort into controlling it. As long as you set it up, then the students have to go through, and at the end, As long as they've achieved that, you'll let them through. So that's been quite popular with people who don't have a huge amount of time to set up or do their own integration within their teaching, but it does mean that the students have something to aim for. And that could be in the first year, or it could be through their whole university career as well. This is the highest level, though, is an integrated mastery. I don't know if that's the correct term, but that's the way that somebody explained it to me, where you start using assigned tests and homework to make sure the students are achieving mastery in the areas needed. You use the study plan to provide the learning support, and use that data and analytics to pinpoint the struggling students for intervention. This is something that you've really got to meld into your course and decide how you're going to use it, where you're going to use it, and what effort you're going to put into that. So the sort of integrated mastery approach gets the best results. When you really use the system to its full potential, we've got huge amounts of case studies that show that students get higher grades, retention has improved, and a whole range of other benefits as well. But you've probably seen as you watch this different ways that you could use this. There's always ways that people surprise us using this, and it works quite well. We've got some people who put these up during tutorials, for instance, and work through the problem with the students, and that could work as well. So another key benefit of using a Pearson MyLab such as MyMathLab Global is not just the system itself, but the support we provide. Pearson has a team of local people that can help you implement and integrate our technologies into your teaching. They'll speak with your teaching team, your technology people, your admin people as well, making sure that you have all the points, all the stakeholders are satisfied, and we have a successful semester. It's really important to us that we support you guys in the usage of this, because if it's not used well, nobody gets results and nobody's happy with it. So we want to make sure that support is a key area that we work with you on. We also have a 24/7 technical support online site where students or instructors can go and email their queries or do a live chat, and they can speak to technical support staff members at any time of the day. So often it's just browser troubles or small things, but we know that they can really get problematic when a student complains they can't get in because of whatever reason. We've got people that can help you do that 24/7 to make sure that we solve those problems as quickly as possible. There's usually not many. It's often just the student has made a mistake, but we want to make sure that we get through those and do that. But if you're having any problems on the instructor side, they're there to help you with that as well. So at Pearson, our company tagline is always learning, and we really do try to make sure that all of our products are supported as much as possible. So they provide the learning benefits to your students and that you're comfortable and well supported in your teaching. So that took about half an hour, a bit of a rocky start, but open up now to some questions. I'll just check to see if anyone's put any questions in. Give me a moment. But please type in any questions that you have now, and I'll answer a few in the time that we've got remaining. I've got one question here. Does this work on an iPad? Not yet. Pearson is going to be moving towards being more mobile friendly very soon, but at the moment that's not the case. It will be happening though in the future as we go forward. All of the questions we put into an HTML5 player, which should play on any mobile device, but formatted better for iPads and other tablets basically, yes. I've got a question about the costs. So it depends on how we're doing this. So if it's just simply a student purchase, the base cost is $49.95 per student. They can buy it through our website and get instant access to that straight away. But there's also other ways that we can do this. We've got we can package it with a textbook, even though it's not aligned to a particular textbook. Often you might have a textbook in mathematics or the first year experience that you might want to package it with, and we can do that at a reduced cost. But to get the most out of this and making sure that every student has access, we more and more we're doing institutional purchases where we'll sell directly to the institution, to the faculty or whoever can pay for it. And at that case, we will offer an institutional discount, and that's based on the number of students you have, the length of time you commit to the product, and what sort of support and training there is. So we can talk to you more about that on an individual case-by-case basis. Let's see, more questions. Access. So yes, we can give you access to this. We have, as I said, a team of local people technology experts and education consultants who can get in touch with you and make sure that you get access to this so you can play around in it and they can talk you through how they could implement it and so forth. So yes, if you have any questions like that, then please, we will be sending out a follow-up communication, and that will definitely roll out to get down to your local people. People that are on the spot can come and visit you and let you know. Okay, is there any more questions, guys? No, I don't think so. Oh, sorry, number of chapters, yes. Marion, there's quite a lot. I couldn't name them all. What I'm going to do, though, is we're going to do a follow-up communication where we've recorded this webinar, my coughing and all, unfortunately, and we'll be putting up links to other things like the scope, the number of chapters, and so forth. So, yes, we'll have a listing of that for you then. I couldn't give you an exact number now. It's quite a large range, as I said, from sort of very basic up to more advanced, but if we give you access, you can then drill down into each of those and find out the exact granularity that you need. So we'll make sure that you get that information as soon as we can. Okay, any last questions before I wrap up? Okay, I think I'll leave it at that then, guys. So thank you very much for attending. And I hope you got a lot out of it. It was a little bit of a rocky start, but hopefully you see the value in this system and how it can really help your students get over that maths anxiety. It really is about the power of practice and making sure they're getting help at the point of learning, but I hope you can see how it could be tightly integrated into your course to make a much greater effect. So we'll be following up soon with an additional communication, and if you've got any further questions, feel free to email me as well. Thank you very much for attending, guys.